Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sylvia, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, then an extra special welcome to you. If you like true crime and other kinds of real-life horror stories, then I highly recommend you subscribe to my channel by clicking the red button down below. The story this week is an absolute roommate horror story. I thought I had it bad when I had a roommate that would have screaming sex and leave her dildo hanging up in the shower, but this completely tops that. So before I get into it, please hit that subscribe button down below and let's get started. This story occurred in a Harvard dorm, and these were both two very high achieving students who had their whole lives ahead of them. So it's extremely tragic that their stories ended this way. This is the case of Trang Phuong and Sinedu Tadesse. Trang Phuong was born in Vietnam, and she actually fled the country with her father when she was just 10 years old. They left on a fishing boat that was so crowded that people were standing like shoulder to shoulder and there wasn't any room to sit or lay down. They eventually landed in an Indonesian refugee camp where Trang began to learn English. Eventually, the family was able to settle down in the United States and start their lives. Trang was described by everybody who knew her as a very hardworking and high-achieving student. In addition to making straight A's, she worked side jobs so that she could help her family pay the bills. And even through her parents' divorce, she continued to be this hardworking, dedicated, and popular student. She was actually the valedictorian of her high school. Meanwhile, Sinedu Tadesse was growing up in a wealthy family in the capital of Ethiopia, which I believe is pronounced Addis Ababa. And unlike Trang, she had a very privileged upbringing. She had access to like all the best tutors, but unfortunately, she had some problems in her social life because her father was in and out of prison, and this made her the subject of ridicule among her classmates. Because many of the other students wouldn't hang out with her, Sinedu spent her days in the library reading every book she could and studying up so that she could get into Harvard. Much like Trang, and I'm sure most Harvard students, Sinedu was also the valedictorian of her school. Both girls got scholarships and they headed to Harvard in the summer of 1992. For a lot of people who were unpopular in high school, college can be a fresh start where they can kind of like leave their shyness or whatever stigma they had behind. But unfortunately, this was not the case for Sinedu. She had just as much trouble making friends at Harvard as she did back home in Ethiopia. Things were looking up for her when she met Trang in science class, and they became friends, and then they decided to room together for their sophomore and junior years. Now, Trang had plenty of friends on campus and off. She also had a side job that she worked for extra money, and her family lived in Medford, Massachusetts, so she could drive home to them on the weekends. On the contrary, Sinedu did not have a close relationship with her family that did live in the United States, and she didn't have very many friends either. She even went so far as to write random letters to people that she found in the phone book. In these letters, she would detail how lonely she was and ask the person that she was writing to if they could write back to her just so that she would have someone to talk to. And that's really depressing, but before you start feeling too bad for Sinedu, just wait until I get to the last part of this story. So the people who received these letters, some of them did feel sympathy towards Sinedu, and one woman said that she wrote back to the student. However, Sinedu's response to her response, she found very unsettling, and it caused her not to write back. Another person who received one of Sinedu's letters actually sent it to the dean of Harvard because she was very worried for Sinedu. And the dean read this letter and then just filed it away. Trang was basically Sinedu's only friend, and while Trang had plenty of social outlets, she was really the only social outlet that Sinedu had. And Sinedu even wrote in her diary that when she met Trang that she would make this woman, quote, the queen of her life, end quote. So Their relationship was very imbalanced, and I think that's a really important part to understand in this story, because like Trang had her job, she had her other friends, her family lived nearby. So like if she was hanging out with Sinedu, like for example, say they went to the movies one weekend, this would just be one of Trang's many social interactions of the week. But for Sinedu, this would be like the highlight of her whole month, you know, just spending like 2.5 hours with her friend, her only friend. Her sophomore year, Sinedu wrote about the imbalance in her and Trang's friendship. She said, "Trang told me I am boring. I felt like I'm boring her. If I ever grow desperate enough to seek power and a fearful respect through killing, she would be the first one I would blow off. You know what annoys me the most is that situations would never reverse for me to be the strong one and for her to be the weak. She'll live on tucked in the warmth and support of her family while I cry alone in the cold. The bad way out I see is suicide, and the good way out, killing, savoring their fear, and then suicide. But you know what annoys me the most? I do nothing." Reminder that this is from Sinedu's sophomore year diary, not her junior year. So that means that Trang agreed to room with her roommate again, having no idea that she had literally fantasized about murdering her in her diary. In their junior year, Trang began to find her roommate very clingy. She felt that Sinedu demanded way too much of her attention. I mean, they're both Harvard students. Trang is extremely busy, and Trang decided to start distancing herself from her roommate. Sinedu's diary entries show that she was jealous of her roommate's social skills, and she even wrote all of these entries that were kind of like treating socialization as another one of her college classes. It's like she was so studious, but when it came to just casual small talk with other people, she really struggled. So like she would make different lists, like my list of social rules, or like here are topics to talk about when you see people. And she would also write these diary entries where she would like obsess over the idea of the ideal friend. Like she would write about like what the perfect friendship would be like. And I just think that it's important to say that Sinedu's situation wasn't Trang's responsibility. Like they were just roommates. Trang wasn't a trained therapist or a social worker. It was just really difficult for her being like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old girl, that like she was being put in this situation where so much of another person's happiness depended on her. So as Sinedu's situation worsened, she just kind of recoiled from her. And she would like go to her friends being like, am I the bad person? Like, am I being ugly to her? Like, I just don't really know what to do. And when Trang told Sinedu that she wanted to room with someone else for her final year of college, Sinedu wrote her a letter begging her to change her mind. And in this letter, Sinedu was basically like, you have friends and a family to go home to, and meanwhile, I'm just here alone. She basically told Trang that she was all she had. Sinedu reportedly said regarding Trang, quote, "I thought we were going to do stuff together. You'll always have a family to go back to, and I'm going to have no one," end quote. By the second semester of their junior year, Trang spent as little time as possible in the girls' shared dorm room. Basically, every weekend, her mom said that Trang would drive home to stay with them because she felt so uncomfortable around Sinedu. And Sinedu's diary entries were becoming much darker. I think the turning point in this story is when Trang tells Sinedu that she's going to room with someone else for their senior year. And with this social outlet being ripped away from her, Sinedu stops speaking to Trang, and this is just pushing her further and further into isolation with her dark thoughts. The end of the school year rolls around, which is May 1995, and everyone is finishing up their final exams and figuring out what they want to do for the summer. Sinedu also is figuring out what her future plans are. She goes to a local hardware store and purchases 2 knives and a rope. She also sends a letter of herself along with an anonymous note to the campus newspaper, the Harvard Crimson. The note said, "Keep this picture. There will soon be a very juicy story involving this woman." The writers of the student newspaper saw this photo and note and they thought it was weird, but they didn't really bother trying to figure out who the girl in the photo was. And I mean, this is before all like the school shootings and stuff, so I don't think that they saw this as like truly worrying the way like people would react if they received this note in like 2022. Sinedu also had coffee with another Ethiopian student who later realized that this was her saying goodbye to him. Trang was blissfully unaware of the dark cloud that was forming over their dorm room, so she invited her 26-year-old friend Tao Win to stay at their room that night. On the morning of Sunday, May 28th, Sinedu's alarm went off at 8 a.m., and this is when she methodically woke up, grabbed one of the hunting knives, and began stabbing her roommate. Trang woke up during this attack and began screaming, which then caused her friend Tao to wake up and to run over to try to pull Sinedu off her. Tao also got stabbed in the process of this and she ran away to get help. However, the dorm room had one of those doors that automatically locked from the outside, so that once she woke up other students and they were able to try to get back into the dorm room, the door was locked and Trang was helpless. By the time police knocked down the door of the girls' dorm room, they find Trang's bloody body laying on her bed. She had been stabbed a total of 45 times. They also found Sinedu's body hanging from a rope in their shared bathroom. It seems that after murdering her roommate who she so admired, Sinedu then decided to end her own life. Word quickly spread around campus and Massachusetts about this grisly murder-suicide that happened at a college where people are supposed to be starting their lives, not ending their lives. And sadly, people were not surprised that Sinedu had done something like this. Her peers all detailed several red flags that showed how much Sinedu's mental health had deteriorated. In addition to the note that the campus newspaper had received, police also found all of Sinedu's diary entries where she detailed her deteriorating mental health, her obsessive fantasization about the ideal friend, and her failed attempts to find effective psychiatric care. Harvard had also been alerted to these red flags, like with the person who turned in one of the letters, and at the time, the letters were just not taken seriously. They were filed away and forgotten. So this is an excerpt from the letter that Sinedu wrote to that random person in the phone book, which was then given to the dean of Harvard. She said, "I feel like I'm a person who can't swim for life in a river. All you have to do is give me a hand and put into words what you already know. No expenses, commitments, or risks involved. You can say no at any time. All it takes is a few hours from your week and some energy. Please do not close the door in my face. Even if you are not interested, please give this letter to a friend or relative who might be. As far as I can remember, my life has been hellish. Year after year, I became lonelier and lonelier." There was absolute outcry regarding the fact that Harvard had let something like this go down in their very own dormitories, and an internal investigation found that students who sought help for their mental health often had to wait 10 to 14 days for a university mental health professional to meet with them. And like, this is Harvard. It's supposed to be the best of the best. So how is it that students who are struggling this badly are having so much trouble to even have somebody meet with them and speak with them? The study also found that in the year prior to Sinedu's situation, 3 other students had also taken their own lives. This prompted Trang's family to file a wrongful death lawsuit against Harvard for not doing more to help Sinedu's mental illness. The outcome of this lawsuit is unknown. They also set up the Trang Ho Public Service Fellowship, and this is a scholarship that was established to help a student who was going into the summer after their junior year perform charitable work. This was the summer that Trang missed out on. And that's the end of this story. It's really sad that somebody who was valedictorian, going to Harvard on a scholarship, doing great in their classes, the only legacy that this woman has is this scholarship. So that's the end of this story. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, even though it was a little bit of a downer. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out on another true crime video. And until next video, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and stay safe.